China, why won't you please sanction Russia? Like, what, you think the Chinese are stupid? You already declared China as the number one enemy. And it's so obvious after you finish off Russia, China is going to next. So wait, you're asking us to help you finish with Russia, to finish with Yemen, so you can concentrate on China? You think we're stupid? I mean, like, U.S. government is run by a bunch of jokers and a bunch of idiots, and but the problem is they expect everybody else to be idiots too. That's why the U.S. empire is struggling right now. We just don't have good human resources.
You have no idea. I like them sending Henry Kissinger when he's 100 years old and needs like emergency services the whole way. I was like, what is happening to the United States? And then he died, and I was like, well, there goes any relations with China.
I was like, they had like literally an ambulance parked outside where he was holding a talk with the Chinese leaders in the Great Hall of the People. They have Henry Kissinger's ambulance parked outside. Wow, they literally sent this old man on life support to help to break ice with China.
Really a big metaphor for the United States. We're literally on life support, begging Xi, please help us. You know, it's bad when we're sending Janet Yellen and then we say, wait, that didn't work. Let's send Henry Kissinger's corpse to China.
Well, Janet Yellen enjoyed her trip, though. I mean, she loved the mushrooms, and like
she loved the mushrooms. She got a little high. Yeah. She did a very
and like people are like, why is she like? People in United States are offended. She's like bowing repeatedly. Like, look, she's going to her debtor, right? She's going to borrow money. You have to show some sort of appreciation for the people who loan you money.
Poor Xi is just standing there as this very strange woman just keeps bowing, and
I mean, it's like why do that? Like, and this is why when Wang Yi says Western people can't tell the difference between Chinese, Korean, and Japanese.
我们中日韩的朋友们，我们到美国去，美国都认为这是亚裔人，是吧？他们分不清中日韩，包括我们到欧洲去也是一样。
Like all these mainstream pundits go offended. Oh, Wang Yi is a racist. No, he's just speaking the truth, man. It's like it's true.
Speaking of Korean, before we lose and run out of time, speaking of Korea, North Korea, how they are now, North Korea is always my favorite. I love North Korea, but they're talking about reunification, and they've had a lot of movement inside of South Korea that's suggesting that they also love the idea of reunification. And of course, we have Kim's sister, my spirit animal, but they're kind of, I think everybody kind of sees the West as weak. Can we rectify the wrongs that have been done to us? And what do you think about North Korean reunification, and how does it look through the lens of China?
So, a lot of people, I say people swallow the State Department lines on China. I mean, it's like 100 times worse when it comes to North Korea, right? Because one thing, it's still harder to travel to North Korea. Like United States, after the warm buyer business, now United States citizens can't even travel to North Korea. Like I can't travel to North Korea, unless like somebody from Taiwan marry me and give me a Taiwan passport. And but anyway, so
don't marry anyone from Taiwan.
No, I talk about like Xiang Yu, my friend Xiang Yu joked that we can fake a gay marriage, because Taiwan recognized gay marriage, so we can fake a gay marriage so I can get my Taiwan resident card, and because the Taiwan resident, because mainland China, because China recognized Taiwan as part of China, so anybody on Taiwan, they can get a special pass to allow them to basically function as Chinese citizens on mainland China. So that's all I want. I was like, okay, let's fake a gay marriage so I can get my Taiwan resident card. So that will allow me to go to mainland China, travel freely to mainland China.
Well, myself, and I think I speak for all of my listeners when I say, if you fake a gay marriage to get to North Korea, nobody will judge you for that. Just go right ahead to North Korea. Because at least somebody can go, I'm dying to go to North Korea. Like, if it's good enough for Putin, it's good enough for me. I'm on my way. Like, I'm very excited for North Korea. I don't remember the book, but I'll put it in the comments or the description. But there's a book that written by a Westerner that's fantastic about North Korea, and that's literally what got me like over this hump, because we don't learn about the Korean War. It's treated like a very insignificant war in the United States, just because there was not a lot of fanfare. It was like in the aftermath of World War II.
We don't want to talk about it because we got our
asses
got its ass kicked. Yeah, I mean, like so okay, it's a forgotten war. You know,
really is. It really is. And you don't really. There's nobody that says I'm a North Korean war vet. There's none of that, like the Vietnam or World War II. So understanding what really happened, it really put a terrible taste in my mouth for South Korea, and understanding why Korean unification of the peninsula was cut, why it couldn't happen, and why it was used as a cudgel against China.
Yeah. I mean, people in United States like, oh, U.S. went in to save a democracy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like South Korea in 1940, in 1950 was not democracy. Who told you that? You know, South Korea has functioned as a military dictatorship
literally
until the 1980s. Yeah, and the people who were in the government in South Korea for most of the time were like former Japanese collaborators.
Yes.
and when there was actually a vote, you know, because after World War II, Korea was divided between the Soviet occupied zone and U.S. Actually, the agreement was decided in the Yalta Conference. You know, the Korean Peninsula will be, northern half will be Soviet and the southern half will be U.S. occupied. But it was supposed to be temporary. And when the Soviet Union launched the August Storm and they went into Manchuria to crush the Japanese Guangdong Army, they were able to arrive in Korean Peninsula pretty quickly. They could have, if they wanted to, they could have just pushed through and take the whole Korean Peninsula, but they abided by their prior agreement with United States by stopping at the 38th parallel, right? So that allowed later U.S. to come in, and when the U.S. come in, it's like, well, I think the best way forward is to keep all the Japanese collaborators in place to help us to run this place. So, I mean, obviously, that wasn't very popular. That's not what people in Korea expected when they're being liberated. When like, why is it still same people in charge? And there was actually a vote for like a republic, People's Republic Korea that was like, you know, the entire unified Korea, but guess what? United States government disbanded that organization. They sent the North. It's like you can't operate here. We got a nice gig going on. We got a functional like all these like nice colonial collaborators keeping the whole structure going on. You know, and that so Korean War was a civil war. You know, no matter how you spin it, people are trying to say, oh, because it's a U.S. trying to deter North Korean aggression. No. This is a civil war. This is a civil war. It's just like Korean War is no different from Vietnam War. This is a national liberation. It's a war of national liberation, and U.S. is just U.S. is stepping, because at that time U.S. is all about stopping communism. It's like, okay, communism, like it's a domino theory. Okay, if they're gonna take all Koreans are going to move on to Japan, we can't allow that because Japan is our precious. But nobody can. Curtis LeMay, the U.S. Air Force general, we ran out of target in North Korea. We ran out of target. We bombed all the cities, all the public infrastructure, all the power plants, all the dams. We have nothing left to bomb. And people in the United States never heard about it. They don't understand, like, millions of people has been killed by U.S. bombing. And there was a story. I was watching a documentary about this Chinese Air Force general who was a commander of the Chinese Air Force in the 1980s. He was one of the first pilot in the Chinese Air Force, and because his mom, so he fought in the Korean War, and he flew against America in the Korean War. But because his mom was Russian, so he looks white. So he got shot down over near the 38th parallel. And when he parachuted and landed in a North Korean village, so because his Western features, everybody thought he was American. So they start beating on him because, like, the villagers are so angry at the American pilots who are constantly bombing them. And so they all pile on him and start beating him. And he was only saved by and like a North Korean officer came by just in time, and because the North Korean officer speaks Chinese, and he's like, no, I'm not American, and show him the badge, and then that's how he was saved from the wrath of the North Korean villagers. I mean, but that's how it really shows how much, like, the American pilots were hated back then by people who were being brutalized by the American bombing campaign.
I don't think people here don't even know about the Plain of Jars. Like, they don't know anything. They know Vietnam, and then there's something happened in the Korean Peninsula, and now we hate China. That's pretty much the extent of what everybody knows.
And the thing about the Plain of Jar, people may have conceptually, or they may have heard Laos was the most bombed country in the world, but what they don't understand is, when China went to Laos to build the high-speed rail a couple years ago, they still have to clear all the unexploded ordnances from the Vietnam War. For all these American bombs, American left so much bomb on Laos. There were still, the landscape is dotted with unexploded ordnances that's killing children, crippled, maiming people. So when China went to build the high-speed rail, all along the way, they have to dig up all these American bombs that left unexploded and treat them. So, it's just another example of America bombs and China builds, right? I mean Indonesia. Indonesia now has a high-speed rail going 350 kilometers per hour.
A high-speed rail links Indonesia's two largest cities.
The significance of the rail is that it also connects two nations, China and Indonesia.
Nobody wants to talk about Jakarta or what we did in Indonesia and Malaysia and all of that. Nobody wants to talk, all in the name of stopping communism. Let's destroy. Yeah. And we use those unexploded ordnance in Cambodia and Laos and all of those areas to keep ourselves inserted in there. We still do missions to go clean up the unexploded ordnance, and we're not really.
There was so much, like, even I am surprised. Like, I thought I'm pretty well versed in Asian history and stuff, and I was doing some research on the CIA airline based in Taiwan, what they call the civil air transport, and so I was surprised to find out in the 1950s. The CIA Airlines civil air transport, they actually had pilots to flew to Indonesia to bomb Indonesian airfields from Taiwan, and because in the 1950s, and of course they also ship weapons to the Golden Triangle in Myanmar and then fly out drugs, and that's another story. that's another. It's weird how whenever the American military turns up or when American CIA gets involved, there's always seemed to be a lot of drugs. Like that happened in Myanmar. That happened in Yeah, that happened in the Golden Triangle, and then that happened in Afghanistan, and then
Drugs. So what are you talking about?
yeah, it's always funny how that works. Look, all these unaccounted money that's like you cannot be audited, and it can be diverted to black ops. I don't know why that happens, right?
No, nobody knows why there's huge drug trafficking lanes from the Balkans down into Afghanistan, down up into the Xinjiang.
Kosovo, like freaking Kosovo. Like what NATO has was doing peace mission to Kosovo for how many years? It's still freaking like the center of crime and drugs. How did that work? I mean, yeah.
And before I let you go, I know I've kept you long, but I have to, for area, I must ask about Zelensky's recent statement at Davos. The Chinese PM is not on my level. I'm wondering if he means that the China. I mean, I said yes, he's not on your level. He's like 17 rungs above you. But I'm wondering what your opinion is on this. Speaking of drugs, what your opinion is on this, and how I'm kind of looking at Zelensky at this point. I think in the West we know he's a joke, but I'm wondering about.
Zelensky is returning to his true form, right? His comedian self. He's returning back to his old, applying his old trade. I mean, like, look, nobody takes Zelensky seriously now in the West. I mean, even the America in the West is tired of him. You have freaking Times Magazine, like featuring Zelensky, saying he's totally delusional, think that West should extend to him unlimited support. I mean, he's been kicking off to the curb right now because you know what? I'm sorry, Ukraine. I mean, even Taiwan. Israel is a true golden child. Nobody can compete with Israel. I'm sorry. I mean, like, you have to take a back seat, Zelensky. I mean, as much as U.S. want to fuck with Russia, I'm sorry.
You can say fuck.
Yeah. As much as U.S. want to stick it to Russia, but Israel is still the golden boy. That's Israel is America's precious, my precious. They can't. Sorry, Ukraine. Sorry, Taiwan. Like you guys have to take a number.
That's exactly what happened. And I was like, does he not realize that nobody comes before Israel? Because
did you see that when Zelensky trying to visit Israel and they told him no, and because they're like, no, you're not doing this. You're not trying to like rub off our spotlight. You don't get to piggyback on our issue.
Yes, exactly. You can't come down here and ask for any attention. What are you talking about?
So Zelensky is right. He is not at the Chinese PM's level. Not at all.
He's not even at the Israeli PM's level at this point. Well, Carl, this has been one of the funniest episodes I think I've ever done, and you have got to come back. But please tell the listeners where they can find you. And I didn't even get to ask all of the questions I wanted to ask, but yes, please tell the audience where they can find you, and I'll give you guys that book recommendation.
So I'm a prolific shit poster, so you can find me on Twitter. My handle is just Carl Za, like a single Carl Za. And I do have a Patreon site because, unfortunately, my Xi Jinping bucks has not arrived in the mail, so I have to support myself. So I do have a Patreon site. It's called the Silk and Steel Podcast. Just go to Patreon, search for Silk. It's the first thing that comes up. Yeah. I mean, I'm all about silk, right? Chinese, got to represent. And so Silk and Steel Podcast, where I do talk about everything about China, and but with a particular emphasis also on Chinese history, because that's my true passion. I'm doing a chronological retelling of Chinese history from all the way from like beginning, from prehistory. I have managed almost 100 episodes, and I am right now at the year 541 BC. So I have a long way to go, but I'm in no hurry. But I also talk about current events, obviously.
This is incredible because it's so funny. I just saw a poll that said, what is the most lied about country in the world? And China was even Americans, overwhelmingly the majority, like people are understanding that we don't know anything about China in the West. We really, really don't. And only when we're lucky enough for somebody to climb over the Great Firewall or to have talks with people like you, because China doesn't care. China doesn't care about their soft power. Their hard power is tremendous at this point. And I think that what you're doing is so important and so necessary because we don't know anything about it. And it really is the future. China is emerging as the leader of BRICS, meaning that they will be the leader of the multipolar world. So I thank you so much. There will be so many clips from this hilarious episode, and we will be inviting you back on tomorrow. I don't even know what's going on our schedule. Mark Sloboda is coming on at some point. I think it's Saturday. So we'll see you guys then. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Invite me back anytime.
Oh,
love
God.
to talk. I love to talk.